Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. And today we're going to be taking a look at this open source AI launcher called Harbor. So, you ever wish you could run all those cool AI models you hear about, but without needing to be like a command line guru?
It can be pretty intimidating for sure.
This is where Harbor comes in. So,
Yeah,
they
definitely.
basically does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And the really cool part is we've got all this source material to dig into. We've got like code snippets, actual documentation from Harbor, and even some examples of how people are already using it.
It's like a backstage pass to see how it all works.
Exactly. Okay, so remember that code snippet we saw right at the beginning of the material? The one that looked like, I don't know, something you'd use to launch a rocket,
Oh, yeah. I think I know the one you mean. There's that bit in there where it says VLLM backend, right?
right? A VLLM backend. Now, to me, that just sounds like something out of Star Wars, but I'm sure it's not that complicated.
Well, it sounds complicated, but it's actually a key part of this whole thing.
Okay, so for our listener who might be hearing this for the first time, what does that even mean? What is a VLLM backend?
So in the simplest terms, think of it like choosing an engine for your AI car, right? VLLN is just one type of engine that's specifically designed to run these really big, powerful language models smoothly.
Okay, so it's like choosing between a gas engine or an electric engine.
Exactly, you got it.
They both get you where you need to go, but they work a little differently.
Yeah, and each one has, its own quirks and advantages. And you see in the code, it also mentions phi-3.5 MOE instruct. That's the actual model we're using in this example. So that's our AI car, if you will.
Okay, I'm following you.
And this particular model is known for being really good at language processing, kind of like a luxury sedan in the AI world, smooth ride, lots of features.
I like it. Okay, so we've got our engine, we've got our car, but what about all those other lines of code?
Ah,
These
yeah.
still look pretty intimidating to me, like that VLM extra RGS section, and especially that your theme offload GB56 part.
Yeah, that's where things get a little more, well, a little more technical, I guess you could say.
What's going on there?
So basically, the user is trying to be smart about how they're using their computer's resources. Running these large AI models, it can be really demanding on your hardware. It's like trying to power a whole city on a limited power grid, you know?
You don't want to do a fuse.
Exactly. You got to be strategic about how you're distributing load.
So it's like making sure you don't plug in too many appliances at once and overload your circuit.
Yes, perfect analogy. In this case, they're offloading some of the model's processing to the CPU. That way they avoid running out of VRAM on their graphics card, which can be a real bottleneck.
So it's kind of like using a backup generator to take some of the strain off the main power supply.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
That's really cool. So even if you don't have like the latest and greatest gaming PC, you can still potentially run these powerful AI models. You just need to be a little creative and use the right tools like Harbor.
That's exactly what Harbor is designed to do. It makes this whole AI thing much more accessible. It's like having a team of expert mechanics under the hood, making sure your AI engine is running as efficiently as possible.
I love that analogy. Okay, but Harbor isn't just about managing resources though, right? It's more like, I don't know, a Swiss Army knife for AI.
You got it. It can do so much more than just resource management.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, for example, we see things like a llama and llama.cpp mentioned in the documentation. These are other types of backends, so think of them as different flavors of AI engines. Each one has its own strengths and is suited for different types of tasks.
Okay, so if VLLM is our electric car engine, what are Olama and Llama.cpp like? What makes them unique?
So llama and llama.cpp, those are kind of like the gas engines of the AI world, you know? They're really good for efficiency and speed, especially when you're working with smaller AI models. So if you think about it like our car analogy, they're more like the reliable everyday car you use to get around town.
I like it. Okay. So we got the high-performance electric car, we've got the reliable gas-powered car, and then we've got this super flexible VLLM engine that can power them both.
That's a great way to visualize it.
But Harbor doesn't stop there, right? It gets even
Oh,
wilder.
absolutely not. There's so much more to unpack here.
Like what else can it do?
Well, one thing that caught my eye in the documentation was the mention of Sear XNG. Have you heard of that one?
Sear XNG. Vaguely, but remind me.
So imagine having like a built-in research assistant that can sift through the entire internet for you.
Okay, now you've got my attention.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. CRSNG is like a privacy-focused search engine that Harbor can tap into.
So instead of having to manually search for information, I could just tell Harbor to go find something related to, I don't know, whatever project I'm working on.
Exactly. You're getting it.
And it would pull up, like, articles, websites, all that good stuff.
Pretty much. It's like having a super-powered search engine that's tailored specifically for AI work.
That's amazing. And it even gets crazier, right?
Yeah.
Because then there's like Auto GPT.
Oh, yeah. Auto GPT, now you're talking. That's where things get really interesting.
It's like giving your AI a to-do list and then just letting it loose on the world.
Right. Which, can be a little unpredictable, but that's part of the excitement.
A little bit scary too, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime you're dealing with cutting-edge AI, there's always an element of the unknown.
True, true. Okay, so for our listener who might not be familiar with Auto GPT, can you break it down for us a bit?
Sure. So basically, it's like having a little AI project manager inside of Harbor. You give it a goal, and it tries to figure out all the steps needed to achieve that goal.
So instead of telling the AI to write a poem, for example,
Hmm.
you could tell it to like write a poem and find a suitable image to go with it.
Exactly. And then AutoGPT would go off and try to make that happen using all the different tools and services that Harbor has access to.
Mind-blowing. But it seems like Harbor is really good at like handling different types of files too, right? Like
Yeah.
I remember that example where a user was searching for all the Guff files in their Hugging Face cache.
Oh, yeah, that's a great example of how versatile Harbor can be. So AGUF files, those are just a specific type of file format used for AI models.
Right.
And in that example, the user needed to find all the GUF files they had stored in their Hugging Face cache.
Which, if they had to do it manually, would probably be a huge pain.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But with Harbor, they just type in this simple command.
Which of it?
It was Harbor CMDH, find all the GUFs here. Super simple and intuitive.
And Harbor just like takes care of it.
Boom. All the GUF files right there at your fingertips.
It's like having a digital librarian who knows exactly where to find every book.
Right. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we're seeing that Harbor is not just for the hardcore techies out there. It's for anyone who wants to explore the power of AI.
Exactly. And that's really the beauty of it.
But let's bring it back down to earth for a second. Like, how are people actually using Harbor in their everyday lives?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Give me some concrete examples.
Well, we see people using it for things like generating creative content stories, poems, even music, automating tasks like data entry or web scraping. And of course, there's always the experimentation side of things, like with the character-level random rewrites example we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Where you're basically introducing a bit of randomness into the AI's thinking process.
Exactly. It's a way to make the AI think outside the box.
But why would you want to do that? Doesn't it just make the AI unpredictable?
Well, yeah, it can, but that's part of the fun. Think of it like adding a dash of spice to a recipe. It might not always turn out how you expect, but it can lead to some really interesting and unexpected results.
I see. So it's like giving the AI a little nudge to be more creative, to try things it might not have thought of on its own.
Precisely. You're essentially encouraging it to explore new possibilities.
So instead of always getting like the same predictable answers, you're pushing the AI to be more innovative.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting because you start to see the true potential of AI, not just as a tool for automation, but as a tool for creativity and innovation.
This is really cool stuff. We're not just talking about writing better emails here. We're talking about pushing the boundaries of creativity in, like marketing, design, even art.
Absolutely. And the best part is, Harbor makes it easy for anyone to experiment with these ideas, even if you don't have a background in computer science.
It's like democratizing access to these incredible tools, which is amazing.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
But with all this talk about creativity and innovation, I'm also curious about the practical side of things, like how user-friendly is Harbor, really?
That's a great question and something we should definitely address. It really is, yeah. And luckily, Harbor really shines in that department. They've put a lot of effort into making it accessible for everyone, not just the coders out there.
Okay, so they're not expecting you to be like a master hacker to figure it out.
No, not at all. The documentation we've got here, it actually highlights how intuitive the commands are and how user-friendly the interface is.
So it really is like that Swiss Army knife we were talking about earlier. Super versatile, but still easy to use, even if you're a beginner.
Exactly.
But, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, AI is moving so fast, right? Like it's evolving at an incredible pace.
It really is, yeah. It's hard to even keep up sometimes.
Exactly. So, with all that in mind, I can't help but wonder, what does the future hold for tools like Harbor?
It's a great question, and to be honest, it's hard to say for sure because AI is changing so rapidly. But if I had to guess, based on what we're seeing already, I think we can expect even tighter integration with our devices and workflows.
Okay, what does that look like? Give me a concrete example.
So imagine Harbor seamlessly connecting with all your creative software, your video editor, your music production software, you name it. And then it could actually suggest AI-powered tools and features based on what you're doing right there in the flow of your work.
So instead of having to constantly switch between different apps and tools, it all just like flows together more naturally.
Exactly. It's about making AI more intuitive, more embedded in our everyday tools, you know.
Yeah.
And I also think we'll see a lot more focus on like resource management and optimization because as AI models get even more complex and demanding, we're going to need tools like Harbor to make sure those models run smoothly, even on devices with limited processing power.
That makes sense. It's like how smartphones have gotten ridiculously powerful over the years, but our battery life hasn't really suffered, because the software has gotten so much better at managing how that power is used.
Exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder. And of course, with all that said, I think the most exciting thing is that we're just scratching the surface here. New AI models and capabilities are emerging all the time. And tools like Harbor, they're going to be essential for unlocking the full potential of what AI can do.
It's an exciting time to be like following this stuff, that's for sure.
Absolutely. It feels like we're on the cusp of a whole new era of computing.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground
I
today.
have, yeah.
Any final thoughts for our listener before we wrap things up?
I guess my main takeaway would be that Harbor is a really powerful example of how AI is becoming more accessible and user-friendly.
Mm,
You don't have to be a tech wizard to start experimenting with these incredible tools. So if you're curious about the potential of AI, but you've been intimidated by the technical side of things, don't be. Harbor is a great place to start exploring.
I love that. It's like, dive in, the water's fine.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap it up there. That's our deep dive into Harbor. Thanks for coming along for the ride.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Always a pleasure. And to everyone listening, until next time, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep that curiosity alive.